Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday's ESPN FC Live. Mark Donaldson, Stevie Nicol, and Mark Ogden with you. On the menu today, a reaction to the European quarterfinal and semi-final draws in the Champions League, in the Europa League, and in the Conference League, and a look ahead to the FA Cup quarterfinals this weekend. We start in the Champions League. The headline draw is Real Madrid meeting Manchester City for the third season in a row, Stevie Nicol. I think with the last 8 teams in the competition, we were guaranteed some top ties. This is a blockbuster, and you saw with Chiri Beguristan, when you saw his face, if you watched the draw, and out came Real Madrid and Manchester City. It was like third year in a row. What do you make of it?
Well, I'm disappointed, to be honest. I think Real Madrid and City, in my opinion, were pretty much two of the favourites. And to have them play this early, I think is a little disappointing. However, it means we're going to get a fantastic couple of ties. I think if I'm City, I'm more confident than I think Real Madrid will be. And I think specifically Real Madrid, looking at that back four they have right now, if that's what's going to be competing against Man City's front line, then I'm going to be a little worried. So, yeah, it's going to be a blockbuster. It's going to be 2 fantastic games. But I think, no question, Man City have to be favourites, and they have to think that they're favourites as well.
When you look at the other ties, Augie, there's narratives aplenty. PSG against Barca, Luis Enrique, the former coach, against Xavi, who he used to coach. You've got Atletico Madrid against Borussia Dortmund. That's the draw they both wanted. They wanted to avoid the big guns, and they have done. And Harry Kane, back in North London, no player has scored more goals against Arsenal in the Premier League than Harry Kane. Wonder how much build-up that will get on ESPN FC ahead of those ties.
Yeah, I mean, that's a magical tie, isn't it, for Harry Kane, in the sense that he's got 1 trophy left to win this season, and he'll have to overcome his big rivals to win it. And I think also you've got to look at the recent history between these two sides. Bayern absolutely dominate Arsenal. They are the worst possible draw in many ways, because I think the last time they played each other it was 10-2 to Bayern over 2 legs. So this is a big test of Arsenal's self-confidence, their belief, I guess. I think on paper, I think Arsenal can win this tie, but I think you've got the added weight of Bayern's history, the experience that Bayern have got. Thomas Tuchel's won the Champions League before. You know, Mikel Arteta and his players are entering kind of new territory. So everything they do from this stage on is new for Arsenal. So it's a big test. But I do think that if they just boil it down to the game and the opponent, they can win. Because Bayern, obviously, as we know, they're not the Bayern of old. They're not even going to win the Bundesliga this season. So that shows you where they are. But you know, Harry Kane always scores against Arsenal pretty much, and I think he'll be desperate to make sure that he doesn't get knocked out by the old enemy. So it's a great tie, but I think, like I said, the other ties are fantastic as well. And you know, Dortmund Atleti is a great one in the sense that you've got 2 big clubs that are desperate to win the Champions League. You know, Borussia Dortmund have won it before, obviously, but Atletico Madrid have obviously gone close and not won it, so they've got a path to the final now. PSG, Barca, 2 clubs that are probably in transition right now, but I do think that that'll be a great tie. And yeah, it's a fantastic draw, because I think none of the big guns have got an easy tie, and that means that we've got a great quarter-final draw coming up.
Okay, time to look into your crystal balls. Our producer Sam asked Stevie and Mark this morning for their picks. So we're going to start with Augie. We'll go through all of your picks first, then we'll get to Stevie. And feel free, Stevie, if you disagree with anything that Augie says, to butt in. I won't be as naughty to you as Dan Thomas is on ESPN FC. So let's get Augie's graphic up with the quarterfinals, and let's find out. We're going to start the way it was done, the way that Atleti came out first, and then Borussia Dortmund. So what have you got in this one? Because Atleti got the job done against Inter, only just against the Dortmund side, who'll be equally as happy with this tie.
Yeah, but Atleti got it done, and it's against a good Inter side. Inter are flying at top of Serie A, and you know, I don't think many teams would have been able to do that, but it's just what Atletico do. They just stick at things. They've got tenacity. They've got belief. They've got great players, and they've got the fantastic record at home in Europe. They haven't lost a knockout tie in the Champions League since 1997. So that's both at the Vicente Calderon and the Metropolitano. So I just think Atleti are too strong for Dortmund. I think Dortmund have got a good team, but they did come through the easiest tie by beating PSV Eindhoven, I guess, in the round of 16. So I just think this is too much for Dortmund. I think that Atletico have got too much experience, too much quality. They've got the best coach as well in the tie. For me, it's Atletico all the way.
PSG Barca, Augie?
Yeah. So on this one, I just think that, Barca have got a lot of injuries. They've got a lot of doubts. They've got, will Frankie de Jong be fit again? Will Pedro be fit again? Will Ferran Torres be fit again? There's too many question marks over Barcelona. You've got people like, Ilkay Gundogan, great player, won it last season with City, Robert Lewandowski. But I just think PSG, although they are a team in transition, I think, as you saw in the last game against Real Sociedad, that Kylian Mbappe really fancies it, and he got 3 goals in that tie. I just think this is probably, for me, I think Barca are the weakest team left in the tournament, to be honest with you. And I think that PSG would quite comfortably. And then we've got an interesting semi-final against Atletico.
Arsenal or Bayern?
I'm going to go for Bayern Munich just because of what I said earlier. I just think they've got the experience. They've got the second leg in Munich. I just think Arsenal, for me, at times, as good as they are and as exciting as they are, they're living on the edge a little bit. And I think Bayern will have the nous when they go there to just kind of soak up the pressure, frustrate them, and just take it back to the Allianz and win that game. Arsenal should win this, like I said before, if they focus on the game. But I just think there's more to it than that. There's a sense of this. Arsenal have got a big pressure to do well in the Champions League. And I just think Bayern will see it as their last chance to win something. And they've got a good route to the semi-final, I think. I think Bayern win this tie.
Now, 2 years ago, Real Madrid.
Yeah, sorry.
Here he comes.
No, I'm thinking about Bayern. Now, if there's one thing Bayern have done on so many occasions this season, is they've collapsed. In the middle of games, they have gone from being in control to collapsing from nowhere on many occasions. I mean, we're talking about an Arsenal side that, if nothing else, are about as consistent as pretty much as possible to be. I don't see how Bayern are favourites at all, honestly. I just think, don't see it.
Yeah, I take your point.
They've won a couple of games. They've won a couple of games since Tuchel decided that he was leaving, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about, oh, they're more relaxed and they're more this and what. It's not. You can't just turn the tap on and all of a sudden you play well. And you're playing against an Arsenal side that, as I said, is pushing anybody back, regardless of the name on the back of the opposition jersey. They're putting them under pressure and pushing them back. I really don't see how Bayern Munich can be favourites in this tie.
I just think, because don't forget, Arsenal struggled to knock out a Porto side that, as well organised as they were, Porto were not one of the favourites. And I think it's just that additional, so that vibe you get in the European night, the Champions League night, is different. And I think it's different to the Premier League, where they know what they're facing. With Bayern Munich, I do wonder whether some of Arsenal's younger players will either grasp it and beat Bayern easily, or they'll look at the badge and think, look, it's Bayern Munich, it's the Champions League, it's a big step. And if Kane turns it on, if Bayern's older players just have that extra element to realise it's the last chance. I've seen it before with older teams that they do have that ability to find. I know you can't turn it on like you say, or turn it on as a tap, but they can find something extra. And that's just that's the X factor in this game. It's whether Arsenal can not look at the Bayern badge and just put it out of the minds and just go for the win.
Okay, 2 years ago, Real Madrid got it done after extra time in a dramatic semi-final that City for long spells dominated. Last year they did. They thumped Real Madrid at home and went through comfortably on aggregate. It's part 3, Oggy. You can't really say Real Madrid when you cover Manchester City as often as you do, can you?
Well, I could do. Not bothered about upsetting anyone at Man City, but I just think, it'd be unrealistic to think that City can't win this tie. I think, last year I was at the second leg at the Etihad and City just blew Real Madrid away. Absolutely blew them away, and they dominated the midfield that night. And I think Real just couldn't get a grip. Now, obviously, Real have bought in Jude Bellingham since then, so that will make a difference. But for me, City are just, on the day, they're just a stronger team. And I think, Real, who scores the goals, apart from Bellingham? It's hard to find.
Vinny Junior's all right.
Yeah, but that game last season, Kyle Walker had him in his pocket, and I've never seen Vinny Junior so well handled by a defender. And there was a moment, I think we all remember it, where he tried to take on Kyle Walker for pace, and Walker just put the afterburners on and just nicked it away from Vinny Junior. It was like he looked round to the bench, Vinny Junior, and thought, I've never had that before. So there's all these little ghosts as well that Real have got to overcome. That being one, Vinny Junior thinking, oh, Kyle Walker again. So I just think City got the upper hand psychologically, and they're a better team. So I think City win this game, despite the fact that Real will be desperate to get revenge.
Okay, let's see your semi-final picks then on the full screen graphic for the last 4. So you've got Atleti against PSG and Bayern against Man City. Okay, we'll move quickly to the final, and then you can explain why you've got these two teams in the final, and we can discuss the semis. So let's find out. Who are your two picks for the final? Atletico Madrid against Manchester City. That's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, well, it's just the way the draws panned out. I don't think Atletico will have too much for PSG. I'll just be too streetwise, too smart. Unless Mbappe has one of those brilliant games. I just think Atleti are just that sort of team that will deal with PSG quite easily. Because PSG aren't a great PSG. I just think they get to the semis because they're facing a Barcelona team that's probably the worst Barca team for 10 years. So Atleti in the final for me. And Man City, well, you know, their toughest game is Real Madrid. If they play Bayern Munich in the semi, they'll win that easily because Bayern aren't anywhere close to being as good as Real, and Real aren't as good as they used to be. So for City, it gets easier. Unless they get Arsenal. If City get Arsenal, that'll be tough, but they'll still win. So I'm going for City Atleti in the final.
And Atleti have never won the Champions League, last twice losing to Real Madrid. So bridesmaids again, City to win against Atleti. You're not going to have Atleti winning against City after City beating Real Madrid, are you?
If you put me on the spot now, I'm going to say no, but I think nobody's beating City over two legs in the Champions League. I think that's
a one-off game.
Yeah, in a one-off game,
maybe.
If it's City Atletico Madrid, I just think you sit down and get ready for the penalties at 20 to midnight because that's what they
know what Simeone's going to do, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Back.
And they came close last year against City. I think in the quarters, I think it was, or the round of 16. So in many ways, Atleti are the worst team you could face in the final because they'll have a plan and they'll really make it stick. But you can't really say that City won't win. But I think for the romantics amongst us to see Atletico win the title after going so close. They missed out in the 70s as well, didn't they? So this will be the fourth attempt. It would be nice for Atletico to win the Champions League after going so close, but I'm not naive.
No thanks.
I'm not naive to sit here. Listen,
I
know.
Let's turn the clock back to 1980 when nobody tried to score a goal. That's a great idea.
Well, that's when you kept winning it. So what are you saying?
We want that team to win. No, there's always an exception to the rule.
Right, Stevie, let's get your picks. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring up the full screen graphic, but we're going to go straight to your picks for who has got through to the semi-final, and then we can discuss. So let's see the graphic of the Champions League, and let's see who you've got going through to the semi-finals out of these four quarters. Okay, so we've got two differences. You've got Barcelona getting through against PSG, and you've got Arsenal going through against Bayern Munich. So, what's the thinking behind PSG against Barca, Luis Enrique against Xavi?
I think this is the hardest one to pick, to be quite honest with you, because we've no idea. Like, you look at PSG, we've got no idea how good they are. Really, we've got no real barometer to figure out how good or how bad this team is. Now, Barcelona are about as unpredictable as it comes as well. But I guess it boils down to if Mbappe turns up, PSG might win. If Mbappe doesn't turn up, they absolutely won't win. I mean, he could. By the time this game comes around, he could be injured. I mean, we just don't know. If you're putting all your eggs in one basket, okay, it's not a bad choice, Mbappe. But at the same time, really, one man's going to do it. I can't honestly, hand on heart, pick a side to win who's relying on whether one guy turns up or not. And as unpredictable as I said, Barcelona are. They've got some players in and around the middle of the park and going forward that can produce. You're looking at the experience of Lewandowski. Maybe not his greatest season, but the guy can score a goal from nowhere. You got the young guy Lamine Yamal coming from the wide areas, who's been absolutely sensational. Gundogan can come up with goals. I don't see that on PSG. I'm looking at Mbappe, and that's it. I mean, okay, you want to throw in Barkley, but really you're going to rely on him as well. So, toughest one to pick, but I'm going to go with Barcelona.
Well, mental scars is the other thing for PSG, because so many times when they reach the knockout stage, even though they hold a lead from the first leg, they go to bits. Arsenal, Bayern, Harry Kane, back to North London. Now you'll face Gabriel and William Saliba. You've got Arsenal going through, just briefly, because you've already touched on this with Augie. Do you think it'll be relatively comfortable for this one, Arsenal? Is it a good thing for them that the first leg's at home?
I don't think it's going to be comfortable. I don't think it's an easy ride, and Arsenal generally don't make it easy on themselves. But I think the biggest difference would, well, there's two. I talked about the consistency of Arsenal and the inconsistency of Bayern. But goal scorers, we're talking about Harry Kane. Who else is going to be putting the ball in the back of the net for Bayern? If it's not Harry Kane, nobody's in form. Nobody's banging other goals in apart from Harry. You look at Arsenal. I mean, you go all the way back to Gabriel at centre back, who's scoring goals for fun from set pieces. So for me, Arsenal's got more match winners. They're just better prepared. They're more prepared. Does experience come into account? Yes, it does. But at the same time, when as a team you're struggling, that Bayern are, that experience isn't going to overcome a whole side. So yeah, I see Arsenal going through. I don't think it's going to be particularly comfortable, but I just think Arsenal are so much better in all departments, pretty much. Other than the centre forward position, they're way better all round the field, in my opinion.
Well, that was the point I was going to make. Bayern have got a striker, Arsenal don't, but goals are spread around the Arsenal side. And it's now 7 years since the round of 16 tie that Bayern won 5-1 home and away. There's still one or two players that played in those games, but it is a different Arsenal side. And I would imagine Arsenal will be slight favourites for this, but that's where our difference of opinion is between Stevie Nicol and Mark Ogden. Oggie's got Bayern going through, Stevie's got Arsenal. So we know your last four, Stevie. Let's take a look at the graphic again, and let's find out who you've got going through to the final. So you've got Atletico Madrid against Barcelona, Arsenal against Man City. You've got a Barcelona-Man City final. So you've got Man City taking out Arsenal and Barca getting the better of Atleti. As far as Oggie's final was concerned, Man City and Atletico Madrid, of course, it's possible, but this one screams a much better final on paper than Oggie's potentially would be to watch for the neutral, because Barca would have a go, Man City would have a go, and that would be a nice game for Wembley Stadium for the final this year.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, talk about storylines. I guess the first story would be, how does this Barcelona team get in the Champions League final? But you know what? If you look at it, it's absolutely possible. Again, Atletico Madrid, I was talking about PSG being a one-man band before. I mean, without Griezmann, this team doesn't know how to get the ball anywhere near the goal. I mean, without Griezmann, the last 3 or 4 games, other than the Champions League game that he came back for previously, this team was lost. They had no idea how to go forward and how to create and how to score goals. And they've always relied on the defensive unit. This team can't keep a clean sheet either, Atletico Madrid, to save their lives. So, again, this is not Atletico Madrid of 4 or 5 years ago that everybody hated to play against, and they were knocking people over and they were getting in your face. Those things have kind of slowly eradicated from their game. Yes, they're still annoying, but they ain't the side that they were, in my opinion. So that's why I've gone for Barcelona.
Stevie, if Barca gets to the final and, whether they win it or not, does that mean that Xavi should reconsider his future? Because obviously he said he's stepping down, but if he gets to Champions League final, I mean, what do you do then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even thinking about it, Barca in the Champions League final, as bad as they've been this season, it's almost... Yeah.
It's not the league. It's not the league.
I don't think he would stay. I really don't. Listen, I don't think he's just leaving because they're getting poor results. I think there's an awful lot of other reasons as well. I mean, I can't imagine what sort of future the next Barcelona manager has, because, are they going to be able to add to this team financially? Are they going to have to sell people because of financial? I mean, I think there are so many other things other than just the results is why Xavi's leaving. I just think Xavi probably doesn't see a good, certainly in the short term, a good future at Barcelona. And I think that's a lot of the reason why he's leaving as well. So no, I don't think if he got to the final, if he would reconsider. I think he's made his mind up. and it's not just what's happening on the field. That's why, in my opinion, he's leaving.
You got City winning against Barca, Stevie?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Europa League draw to come, but there you go. Stevie Nicol's bracket with Man City beating Barcelona. By the way, if Real Madrid can knock out Man City, they found a way 2 years ago, and then find a way past Arsenal or Bayern, Wembley Stadium hosting an El Clasico. Barcelona against Real Madrid. That would be rather tasty, would it not? Now, Europa League. Stevie, I mean, will we just give you the trophy right now? Atalanta in the quarterfinal, and then Marseille or Benfica in the semi-final. I mean, you're not dropping anything there, are you? You're getting through to the final, surely.
Listen,
Liverpool.
that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem, Liverpool. I think the fact that yeah, and whether you think it's good or not, the fact that Klopp's leaving will mean that Liverpool absolutely 100% wouldn't be complacent anyway. I find it hard to believe that any Liverpool side would get complacent under Klopp. But unfortunately, every other man and his dog, including yourself, is just all of a sudden saying, oh, it's Liverpool's, give it to them, blah, blah. Football doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Liverpool are still going to have to play. They're still going to have to dominate. They're still going to have to get the run of the rub of the green and get some decisions and take their chances. There's a lot of things that they have to do in order to make sure that that superiority that on paper they look as though they have comes to fruition. And it's not a case of turning up. You've got to do the right things at the right time, have the right attitude. But as I said, I do expect them to be in the final because Klopp's not a guy that will let his players become complacent. And the fact that he is leaving probably should eradicate any thought of being complacent anyway if you're a Liverpool player.
Augie, if we get Liverpool against Bayer Leverkusen, it's going to be in the final, so it would be a 90-minute game, potentially 120-minute game. So we're denied the opportunity to see them home and away. Is that the most likely path for you, that Leverkusen get through and Liverpool are in the final, or certainly with a chance to win it for the first time since they beat Alaves in Dortmund in 2001?
Yeah, I think Liverpool are nailed on for the final. I think we can just, everyone can start booking their hotels in Dublin now. I think most people have them, judging by the
Good luck. There's none
today.
left.
So thanks everybody. The other field, the other side of the draw, I don't think we should rule out West Ham, against Leverkusen, because as Steve was saying before, we don't know how strong PSG are. We don't know how strong Leverkusen are because they've had a great season in Germany, no doubt about that, and they're flying ahead of Bayern Munich, but they had it very close against Karabakh in the round of 16. So West Ham have shown in the Premier League that they can be competitive against a lot of teams. So I'm not sure. Everyone's talking about what a great narrative it would be. Xabi Alonso against Jurgen Klopp in the final, potentially before replacing him as Liverpool manager in potentially Klopp's last game. It could be David Moyes, ex-Everton and Man United manager, putting the trophy on the table and denying Jurgen Klopp a farewell in Dublin. So
Stevie's face has just gone redder and redder at that suggestion.
Well, if we're saying,
I'm thinking West Ham are the Atletico Madrid of the Europa League.
Yeah, they could.
They'll do exactly that. They'll make it difficult. They'll sit tight. They'll have a good shape. They won't give too much away. They'll try and hit you on the break. I mean, they're the English Atletico Madrid. Let's be honest, when it comes to the Europa League.
Yeah, well, everyone's expecting Jurgen Klopp to face his successor in the final of the Europa League. So if it's David Moyes, then that'll be quite funny as we go forward, wouldn't it? But
please
anyway,
no.
So, but listen, I mean, you've got to say Liverpool the favourites, and I think Leverkusen as well. But I do think Milan and Roma, I wouldn't rule them out as well because they both had good season this year. Roma have got a bit of pedigree, having won the Conference League a couple of years ago. Milan. So it's quite a heavyweight quarter-final in the Europa League. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to stick my neck out and say Liverpool-West Ham final rather than Liverpool-Leverkusen.
In Dublin. Wow. I mean, if you can't get a hotel room now, they'll be camping around the streets of the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. That would be something else. Conference League, by the way, Aston Villa have got LOSC Lille and are 7-4 favourites to win the Conference League. I was looking, Augie, this morning, all three English teams, or these three English teams, Manchester City to win the Champions League, Liverpool to win the Europa League, and Aston Villa to win the Conference League. You think, well, that might be decent odds. No, you don't even get 5-1 for your treble. And it's probably not value that's worth betting. Could it happen? Yes. but there always seems to be that one team that just throw a spanner in the works and upset a favourite. It's going to happen. We just don't know where and which competition yet.
Yeah, I think the most likely team to let that one down is Man City in many ways. I think, obviously, I've said that Arsenal are getting knocked out, but if Arsenal get through to the semis against City, then that is you could imagine Arsenal over 2 legs maybe beating City. I think it's unlikely, but I think the one team in that bracket you would think, because the competition facing Liverpool and Villa is so far inferior to those 2 teams on their day that you'd think they would win it. The gap between City and the rest isn't quite as big in the Champions League, but I still for me that's good value. If 5-1 is what they're offering, then that's, put a tenner when you win 50 quid back. So just do the maths. It's not bad. It'll pay for your sleeping bag in Dublin.
You're also speaking to 2 Scots here, so I'm not sure we'd give you a fiver each to make up your tenner. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm sure Stephen would bet.
I know Liverpool. You would.
Don't you start 10-11, by the way, Liverpool. Yeah. Odds on Liverpool to win the Europa League. Speaking of Liverpool in cup competitions, we're going to end with the FA Cup. Stevie Nicol, who's this a bigger game for on Sunday? Manchester United or Liverpool in the quarterfinal?
Oh, easy peasy. Man United. No question. Listen, if Liverpool lose this, it's well, okay, you know what? It's one less to worry about. It is Man United away. It's not inconceivable that you lose at Old Trafford. But guess what? We've got the Premier League and the Europa League to look forward to. So that's okay. If you're Man United and you're elbowed out of this competition, where do you go from here? Nowhere. Your season's pretty much done because you ain't getting in the top 4. That's for sure. So your season's pretty much done. If Man United lose to Liverpool, go and book your holidays, everybody. So yeah, absolutely, Ten Hag. This is big for Ten Hag, and he certainly can't afford a drubbing, which it won't be. It's at Old Trafford. It's not going to be a drubbing. I think Liverpool are favourites to win the game, but it'll be tight. But yeah, this is a big game for Ten Hag, no question.
Oggy, sitting in his throne in his living room, and he's kind of just saying that little team, Manchester United. Yeah, the last time that Liverpool went to Old Trafford, they lost. Oggy, Mohamed Salah pulled one back late, but it was 2-1 to Manchester United. So I think we all agree that it's a bigger game for Manchester United, this one. However, this is one of these, we've just been speaking about potential upsets or shocks. Would it be a massive shock if Man United were to beat Liverpool on Sunday?
No, you can't say it'd be a shock if Man United beat Liverpool, because as bad as United have been this season, it's still Man United. They have some quality players who just haven't performed. But for that game last season, United went into that really in crisis. They'd lost the first 2 games of the season, and 3 games into his reign, Erik ten Hag was being questioned. But 18 months on, and they're going into the game in some kind of crisis again because they're miles off where they should be. And Stevie's right. If United lose this game, they're in the twilight zone for the rest of the season because they've nothing to play for. Although there is an element they could scrape 5th place if that becomes a Champions League spot. But I don't see Tottenham sliding back to be caught by United or even Aston Villa. So it's a big game for United. Of course it is. And I think with Liverpool, if they're going to start seeing the games mount up, and the priority for Liverpool is clearly the Premier League. They have to win but they want to win the Premier League to see Klopp off and also equal United's 20 times domestic champions. So the FA Cup might get in the way. If they get out of the FA Cup, then semi-final weekend they can get a Premier League game done. I think they're going to go all the way in the Europa League now, so that's going to obviously drain the resources. So it wouldn't be a bad thing to be out of the FA Cup. But obviously Liverpool are a club that want to win everything they play for. They're not one of those clubs that can pick and choose. They're not like Tottenham under Pochettino. They go for everything. So they'll want to win this. But yeah, it's a bigger game for Man United. But as soon as the whistle goes, as Steve, you'll know, there's no way Liverpool say it doesn't really matter to us this, because it's only FA Cup. Sure. They'll be desperate to win. They've got 9,000 fans at the game on Sunday. So as soon as that game starts, it's massive. And it's the biggest 2 teams in English football wanting to get one over each other.
Stevie, Liverpool getting the big players back at the right time with the business end of the season just around the corner.
Yeah, somewhat. I'd still like to have Kanate back 100%. I wouldn't mind having Jota as well. Yeah, they're getting them back, but it's going to take some time for to pick up from where they left off. I mean, Slobozlai is a good example. He's come back and he's played in a couple of games, but he's not yet near the sharpness that he had before his injury. So yes, they're getting them back. It's a question of how sharp are they going to be when they come back, and how long does it take them to get that sharpness back? Because at the end of the day, we're now getting in the period where you can't afford slip-ups, you can't afford losses, you can't afford to drop points, and that means you have to have not only your players back, but they have to be at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is the key. As much as getting them back, what sort of condition are they in to be able to produce what we know they can?
And Oggy United getting players back as well, so it's all set up quite nicely for Sunday. Who do you expect back that's maybe been missing for the last few weeks?
Yeah, United are getting players back, but they're not as good as Liverpool's that are coming back. That's the only downside because Mo Salah's coming back and Aaron Wan-Bissaka's coming back for United, so there's a slight difference there. So you're looking at Wan-Bissaka, Harry Maguire, Rasmus Højlund. It does give United a bit more strength, but these guys aren't going to be match fit. They haven't played for, in Wan-Bissaka's case, a long time, so it gives them a bit more depth. I think the United's big losses, people like Lisandro Martinez at the back, he brings a lot more kind of calm and composure. But, if United can get the injured players back on the pitch, looking like they're fit enough, if Rashford performs, if Bruno Fernandes has one of his games where he's more disciplined and just runs off everywhere, they might have a chance. I still think Liverpool are going to win the tie, though.
Mm-hmm. All 4 games from the FA Cup quarterfinals live on ESPN Plus in the United States, starting off with Wolves against Coventry. That's the early one on Saturday. Then Manchester City against Newcastle, and 2 on Sunday see Chelsea against Leicester and Man United against Liverpool. All 4 games live on ESPN Plus. Just the final thoughts to look ahead to our other coverage this weekend. My thanks to Stevie Nicol and to Mark Ogden. We've got some La Liga action, some good games as well, with Osasuna taking on Real Madrid, Saturday, 11:15 Eastern. Coverage begins at 10:45. Remember, there's only 4-hour time difference between the US East Coast and Great Britain right now, 5-hour time difference with Spain from the US East Coast. We've also, for the first game of the season, got the NWSL coming up with Kansas City against Portland, Saturday at 12:30 Eastern on ABC and ESPN Plus. And a good one as well, back to La Liga with Atletico Madrid against Barcelona. The games come thick and fast. Sunday at 4, coverage begins at 3:30. So the Champions League draw.
In Hong Kong?
You just worry about Liverpool at Old Trafford, son, and keep your phone off if you don't get a result. And then you'll be like, I didn't matter anyway. It's only the FA Cup.
It's 9 hours, and then it's 8 hours if you go north. Right.
Stevie, you're the guy that shows up 8 hours to the airport before a domestic flight. So let's not go down there. I was just going to there goes your graphic. There goes your La Liga coverage. Off we go into the ether, but no, he pipes up with how long is it to get to where and how many
you're
hours.
given every other time zone. I just thought I'd ask for Hong Kong.
Check out Dan Thomas's Twitter feed and see what Stevie does when he doesn't agree with Dan. That's your tone. Your tone's unacceptable. Let's end this.
Listen to him deflecting.
Can I finish now,
Come
Stevie?
on, shut it down. Get on with it.
See? Okay. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.